Palm Beach, Florida, August 8, 2022, 8:39 in the morning. FBI agents move through the corridors of a pink mansion, their footsteps echoing on marble floors imported from a Cuban castle. In a bathroom, stacked beside a shower, sit boxes containing some of America's most guarded secrets: nuclear weapons intelligence, special access programs, documents that could compromise national security. This is Mar-a-Lago, a palace built by the wealthiest woman in America, rejected by the government she tried to give it to, and transformed into the epicenter of modern political power. How did a winter retreat for a serial heiress become the scene of an FBI raid? In 1924, Marjorie Merriweather Post stood on 17 acres of Palm Beach coastline and envisioned something extraordinary. The heiress to the Post cereal's fortune, later to become General Foods Corporation, Post was among the wealthiest women in the United States. She had married financier Edward F. Hutton, and together they planned to build a winter palace unlike anything Florida had ever seen. She searched for years to find the perfect location, crawling through jungle-like undergrowth and swampy grounds that seemed worthless to everyone else. But Post saw what others couldn't. She found land stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Worth Lagoon, the only property in Palm Beach with ocean-to-lake access. She would name it Mar-a-Lago, sea to lake. Construction began in 1924 and would take 4 years to complete. Over 600 workers labored to bring Post's vision to life. She hired Marion Sims Wyeth, a renowned architect, to design the exterior structure. For the interior, she brought in Joseph Urban, a Viennese designer who had once worked for Emperor Franz Joseph and the Khedive of Egypt. From Vienna came Professor Franz Barwig and his son, who spent 3 years carving and modeling extraordinary sculptures. The models for parrots and monkeys they created are still preserved on the property today. Post spared no expense on materials. 3 boatloads of Dorian stone arrived from Genoa, Italy, chosen specifically because it aged rapidly and could be carved with intricate detail. Look closely at this stone today, and you can see tiny seashells and fossils embedded in its surface. She acquired 36,000 antique Spanish tiles, some dating back to the 15th century, that had been collected by Mrs. Horace Havermeyer in the 1800s. 20,000 Cuban roofing tiles crowned the structure. From an old Cuban castle came 2,200 square feet of black and white marble, which would become the dining room floor. Local cypress wood was used for doors and beams, and ironwork was cast in nearby West Palm Beach. The result was breathtaking: a crescent-shaped mansion in the Hispano-Moresque style, stretching over 110,000 square feet with 114 rooms. Upper and lower cloisters curved along the concave side facing Lake Worth. A 75-foot tower rose above it all, offering panoramic views for miles in every direction. The entire structure was anchored to a coral reef with concrete and steel, designed to withstand hurricanes. When Mar-a-Lago officially opened in January 1927, Post had spent $7 million, equivalent to $127 million today. It was called the most valuable parcel of land in Florida. Marjorie Post used Mar-a-Lago as her winter residence, arriving each year in mid-January and staying through late March. The mansion became the social hub of Palm Beach. She hosted elaborate dinner parties and charity galas. There were concerts and costume balls. She even hosted a circus. The International Red Cross Ball became an annual tradition beginning in 1957, a white tie event where tiaras were required. In 1961, Post added a pavilion with a 30 by 50-foot dance floor where she held square dance evenings. But the mansion's life was not without interruption. In 1935, Post and Hutton divorced. She married Joseph E. Davies, a Washington lawyer who was appointed ambassador to the Soviet Union. Mar-a-Lago closed for 5 seasons. Post made only brief visits in the early 1940s. In April 1944, the house was turned into a training center for returning servicemen. Post didn't fully return until 1948, when she resumed her legendary social calendar. By 1969, the Department of the Interior designated Mar-a-Lago as a National Historic Site. It was a recognition of something remarkable, but also a warning. The 1950s and 60s had seen social tastes change dramatically. Many mansions constructed in the 1920s were being demolished, torn down to make way for modern developments. Post wanted to ensure Mar-a-Lago would survive. When Marjorie Merriweather Post died in 1973, she bequeathed the entire 17-acre estate to the United States government. Her dream was clear. She wanted Mar-a-Lago to serve as a winter White House for presidents and visiting foreign dignitaries, a place where American leaders could host international summits in splendor, a gift to the nation she loved. The government said no. President Richard Nixon preferred his Florida White House in Key Biscayne. President Jimmy Carter showed no interest. The reality was simple. The cost of maintaining Mar-a-Lago was astronomical, running into millions of dollars annually. Security would be a nightmare. The sprawling oceanfront property, with its multiple access points and proximity to public areas, would be nearly impossible to secure properly. On December 23, 1980, Congress passed Act 96-586, officially returning Mar-a-Lago to the Post Foundation. That same year, it was declared a National Historic Landmark, recognized as exemplifying the way of life of wealthy Americans who built mansions during Florida's land boom. The Post Foundation listed Mar-a-Lago for sale at $20 million. There was almost no interest. Post's daughters, including actress Dina Merrill, stopped investing in maintenance, anticipating a sale that never came. The estate began to deteriorate. By 1985, demolition had been approved. One of America's most magnificent properties was scheduled to meet the wrecking ball. In 1985, a New York real estate developer named Donald Trump saw an opportunity. Trump initially offered $15 million for Mar-a-Lago. The Post family rejected the offer. What Trump did next would become legend in real estate circles. He purchased the beachfront lot between Mar-a-Lago and the ocean from Jack C. Massey, the former owner of Kentucky Fried Chicken, for $2 million. Then Trump announced his intention to build a home on that lot, a home that would completely block Mar-a-Lago's ocean view. Competing interest in the property evaporated overnight. Trump purchased Mar-a-Lago for $5 million, down from the $20 million asking price. He paid an additional $3 million for the furnishings and antiques, which alone had been appraised at $8 million. The total came to approximately $10 million, equivalent to $30 million in today's currency. Trump had saved between $10 and $20 million through strategic maneuvering. Trump and his wife at the time, Ivana Trump, used Mar-a-Lago as their winter residence. Ivana managed extensive renovations. Trump invested heavily in restoration, largely preserving the original style that Marjorie Post had created. He added a 20,000-square-foot ballroom. The crescent-shaped mansion, with its Spanish tiles and Italian stone, was brought back to its former glory. But by the early 1990s, Trump faced significant financial difficulties. In an attempt to salvage value from the property, he proposed subdividing Mar-a-Lago into smaller parcels. The Palm Beach City Council rejected this plan. Local residents were alarmed at the prospect of fragmenting the historic estate. Trump found himself at war with the Palm Beach establishment. The town cited Mar-a-Lago with violations totaling $120,000 in fines. Trump responded by filing a $25 million lawsuit against Palm Beach, claiming selective enforcement and discrimination. In 1995, Trump found a different solution. He converted Mar-a-Lago into a private club. It was a transformation that would define the property for decades to come. Trump settled his lawsuit against the town, and selling memberships to the Mar-a-Lago Club began. The initiation fee started at $25,000. Members gained access to 126 guest rooms, 5 red clay championship tennis courts, a world-class spa and beauty salon, an award-winning pool complex, a pitch and putt golf course, and a croquet court. A beach club was accessible through a tunnel running under South Ocean Boulevard. In 2005, Trump completed the Donald J. Trump Grand Ballroom, a 20,000-square-foot space that became the largest ballroom on Palm Beach Island. The club hosted concerts by celebrities like Celine Dion and Billy Joel. In 1994, Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley spent their honeymoon at Mar-a-Lago. According to Jackson's biography, they shared their first kiss at the estate. In January 2005, Donald Trump married Melania Knauss at Mar-a-Lago. The guest list included Bill and Hillary Clinton, along with numerous other celebrities and media figures. But not everything at Mar-a-Lago was glamorous. In 1992, Trump was filmed at a party with Jeffrey Epstein at the estate. Years later, photographs would surface showing Trump and Epstein together at Mar-a-Lago in 1997. On February 12, 2000, a photo was taken showing Trump, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Melania together. In 2000, Virginia Giuffre was working as a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago when Ghislaine Maxwell approached her and introduced her to Jeffrey Epstein. Giuffre would later make accusations of trafficking. Trump would later ban Epstein from the property, though the exact timing remains disputed. According to financial disclosure forms, the Mar-a-Lago Club generated $29.7 million in gross revenues between June 2015 and May 2016. By 2017, Trump had increased the initiation fee to $200,000, with annual dues of $14,000. Revenue that year was $25.1 million. In 2024, the initiation fee jumped to $700,000. By late 2024, it had risen again to $1 million, with annual dues of $20,000. It was a 43% increase in less than a year. On January 20, 2017, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. He began calling Mar-a-Lago his Winter White House and occasionally his Southern White House. He would visit the estate more than 26 times during his presidency. A sensitive compartmented information facility known as a SCIF was installed at Mar-a-Lago to allow secure communications with the White House Situation Room and the Pentagon. It would be removed after Trump left office. Trump's first visit to Mar-a-Lago as president took place the weekend of February 3rd through 6th, 2017. On Saturday, he hosted the Diamond Red Cross Ball at the Mar-a-Lago Club. On Sunday, he watched Super Bowl LY at the nearby Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. The following weekend, February 10th through 12th, Trump hosted Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his wife Akie Abe. This was historic. It was the first time an international leader was entertained outside the White House. But what happened that weekend raised serious security concerns. On Saturday night, North Korea launched a missile. President Trump and Prime Minister Abe received the news while dining with club members in the main dining room. They began conferring about the crisis in full view of other diners. Guests at nearby tables watched as military aides brought documents and phones to the president. Some club members took photographs and posted them on social media, showing military personnel holding what appeared to be sensitive materials under the glow of candlelight. Security experts were horrified. Classified national security discussions were taking place in a room full of paying club members, their guests, and staff. The visits continued. On April 6th through 9th, 2017, Trump hosted Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan at Mar-a-Lago. It was during this visit that Trump made the decision to strike a Syrian airfield in response to chemical weapons use. The order was given from Mar-a-Lago. On March 7, 2020, Trump hosted Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro for a working dinner to discuss Venezuela, trade deals, and Middle East peace. Days later, it was revealed that Bolsonaro's press secretary, who had attended the dinner, tested positive for COVID-19. Throughout Trump's presidency, over 150 foreign government officials visited Trump properties, including Mar-a-Lago. Democratic senators introduced the Mar-a-Lago Act, legislation requiring publication of visitor logs at Mar-a-Lago and other locations where the president conducted official business. Trump refused to release the information. A lawsuit was filed, and in July 2017, a judge ordered that the logs be released. In April 2017, ahead of Xi Jinping's visit, Share America, a website run by the U.S. State Department's Bureau of International Information Programs, published a blog post describing Mar-a-Lago's history. U.S. embassies in the United Kingdom and Albania shared the post. Senator Ron Wyden, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, and ethics observers questioned whether this constituted using official government resources to promote Trump's private property. By April 25th, all posts had been removed, replaced with an apology stating the intention had been to inform the public about where the president was hosting world leaders. When President Trump was in residence at Mar-a-Lago, the Palm Beach region became a security zone unlike anything the area had seen. A temporary flight restriction zone extended 30 nautical miles, roughly 55 kilometers, in all directions. Commercial flights had to divert their routes. The the Palm Beach County Park Airport in Lantana was shut down repeatedly, causing significant financial losses for local businesses. The Coast Guard and Secret Service secured both waterway approaches, from the ocean and the lake. An elite maritime safety and security team was deployed. Streets leading to Mar-a-Lago were cordoned off. The Secret Service charged taxpayers more than $800 per night to stay at Trump's properties, documented at least 11 times. The total cost of security operations ran into the millions. But despite all these measures, security breaches occurred. On March 30, 2019, a 33-year-old Chinese businesswoman named Yu Jingjiang approached the Mar-a-Lago security checkpoint. She told Secret Service agents she was there to use the pool. When questioned further, she claimed she was there for a United Nations event. No such event existed. Zhang was allowed to pass the initial checkpoint. She was eventually stopped by a receptionist who grew suspicious. When Secret Service agents searched her belongings, they found 5 cell phones, 1 laptop, an external hard drive, and multiple USB drives. Tests later revealed that at least 1 USB drive contained malware. In her hotel room, investigators found additional technical equipment and significant amounts of cash, along with Chinese passports. The FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation into suspected Chinese espionage efforts at Mar-a-Lago. Zhang was convicted of trespassing and lying to federal agents. On November 25, 2019, she was sentenced to 8 months in jail. A second Chinese woman was also arrested for trespassing at Mar-a-Lago around the same time, though she was later found not guilty after testifying she was confused about access. National security experts described the incidents as evidence of infamously bad security at the estate. The Secret Service relied partly on club security staff, not federal agents, to screen visitors. The uncontrolled flow of paying guests, their friends, and event attendees created what experts called a security nightmare. When Donald Trump left the White House in January 2021, he took with him a large volume of presidential records. Under the Presidential Records Act, these documents should have been turned over to the National Archives. Instead, they were transported to Mar-a-Lago. In January 2022, the National Archives arranged to retrieve 15 boxes of material from the estate. When archivists examined the contents, they found documents clearly marked as classified. The Department of Justice immediately restricted details about what the boxes contained. On May 11, 2022, the Justice Department sent Trump a grand jury subpoena requesting any additional documents with classification markings. In June, Trump's lawyers certified that all classified materials had been returned. This claim would prove to be false. The Justice Department also requested surveillance footage from the club. August 8, 2022, began as an ordinary morning at Mar-a-Lago. At 8:39 a.m., that changed. FBI agents arrived with a search warrant. It was unprecedented in American history. Never before had federal agents raided the home of a former president. The search lasted hours. Agents moved through Trump's personal office, storage rooms, and other areas of the estate. In one bathroom, they found boxes of classified documents stacked beside a shower. The photos would later shock the nation. Sensitive government materials stored in a country club bathroom. When the FBI finished their search, they had recovered over 13,000 government documents. More than 300 of those documents were classified. Over 100 bore classification markings indicating they contained some of America's most sensitive secrets. Some documents related to nuclear weapons. Others involved special access programs, the highest level of classification, compartmented even beyond top secret. The documents were covered under the Espionage Act, laws designed to protect national defense information. The security implications were staggering. Mar-a-Lago had no SCIF after Trump left office. The facility that had been installed during his presidency had been removed, yet classified documents were stored throughout the property. Mar-a-Lago hosts hundreds of events annually: wedding receptions, charity galas, corporate parties. Paying members and their guests move freely through the estate. Foreign nationals are among the membership. Staff and visitors had access to areas where these documents were kept. Photos from the investigation showed boxes in Trump's office, in storage rooms, and most notoriously, in a bathroom. Some documents appeared to have been displayed on a stage in the Mar-a-Lago ballroom. In June 2023, a federal grand jury returned a 37-count indictment against Donald Trump. The charges included willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding and concealing documents, making false statements, and violations of the Espionage Act. Prosecutors alleged that Trump had shown classified documents to people without security clearances. They claimed that when the government sought return of the materials, Trump and his associates moved boxes to conceal them from investigators. The case seemed destined for trial, but on July 15, 2024, Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed the entire case. She ruled that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith was unconstitutional. The dismissal remains controversial. The documents, the photos, the evidence all still exist, but the criminal case ended before it ever reached a jury. In September 2022, New York Attorney General Letitia James filed a lawsuit alleging that Donald Trump had committed fraud by inflating the value of his properties, including Mar-a-Lago, to secure better terms on loans and insurance policies. The lawsuit claimed Trump had valued Mar-a-Lago at between $739 million and $1.8 billion on financial statements. Judge Arthur Engeron examined the evidence and reached a stunning conclusion. Based on deed restrictions Trump had agreed to in 1995 and 2002, Mar-a-Lago could only be used as a social club. It could not be subdivided or developed residentially. Judge Engeron ruled that Trump had inflated Mar-a-Lago's value by approximately 2,300%. The judge valued the property at roughly $75 million. Trump and his supporters pushed back hard. Forbes magazine had estimated Mar-a-Lago's value at around $350 million in 2022. Real estate brokers on Palm Beach suggested it could be worth even more, with the most aggressive estimate reaching $725 million. By late 2024, the real estate market around Mar-a-Lago was booming. Neighbors were selling tiny lots for $18 million or more. In November 2025, property taxes on Trump's Palm Beach properties, including Mar-a-Lago, increased by 8.5%. Palm Beach County's tax assessment valued Mar-a-Lago at between $18 and $28 million, far below any of the other estimates. The truth is that no one can agree on what Mar-a-Lago is actually worth. The legal restrictions limit its use. The club generates millions in revenue annually. The land itself, 17 acres spanning from ocean to lake, is irreplaceable. The historical significance adds intangible value, but Trump's claims of valuations exceeding $1 billion appear disconnected from reality. ProPublica's 2019 investigation revealed stark inconsistencies between what Trump reported to tax authorities and what he told banks when seeking loans. The pattern suggested systematic inflation of property values for financial gain. The people of Palm Beach have had a complicated relationship with Mar-a-Lago for decades. In the 1990s, when Trump fought to convert the estate into a private club, the town cited him with $120,000 in violations. Trump responded with a $25 million lawsuit alleging selective enforcement and discrimination. Eventually, both sides settled and the club opened, but tensions never fully disappeared. In December 2020, after Trump lost his re-election bid, some of Mar-a-Lago's neighbors took action. They sent a demand letter to the town of Palm Beach and the Secret Service, challenging Trump's right to live at Mar-a-Lago permanently. Their argument centered on a 1993 agreement Trump had made with the town. That agreement stated that club members could not stay at Mar-a-Lago for more than 3 non-consecutive weeks per year. The property was designated for hospitality, not residential use. Trump's neighbors argued he had forfeited his right to use Mar-a-Lago as a residence when he converted it into a club. On February 9, 2021, the town of Palm Beach held a hearing. Trump's attorney argued that Trump had never given up his residency rights, that he maintained private quarters separate from the club areas. The legal review continued, but Trump remained at Mar-a-Lago. The neighbors' concerns went beyond legal technicalities. They complained about excessive noise from events. Presidential and security motorcades blocked streets. The Secret Service presence was constant and intrusive. Coast Guard operations disrupted waterways. Temporary flight restrictions grounded private planes. The costs of security, paid by taxpayers, ran into the millions. Some neighbors worried, ironically, about how Trump's presence might affect their property values. Trump has largely ignored these complaints. He continues to reside at Mar-a-Lago and shows no indication of leaving. The estate has become his permanent home and the center of his political operations. After leaving office in January 2021, Donald Trump established the office of the former president at Mar-a-Lago, as provided for under the Former President's Act. But Mar-a-Lago quickly became much more than a post-presidential office. The New York Times coined the term the Mar-a-Lago machine to describe what was happening. Republican candidates seeking Trump's endorsement made pilgrimages to Palm Beach. Fundraisers were held regularly. Trump positioned himself as the kingmaker of the Republican Party, and Mar-a-Lago became the seat of his power. On November 8, 2022, Trump hosted a watch party at Mar-a-Lago for the midterm elections. On March 5, 2024, he held another for Super Tuesday. Throughout this period, a continuous stream of Republican politicians sought meetings with Trump at the estate. In July 2024, Benjamin Netanyahu visited Mar-a-Lago during Trump's presidential campaign. After Trump won the 2024 presidential election, Mar-a-Lago transformed once again. Foreign leaders and diplomats began flocking to Palm Beach. On November 23, 2024, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte met with Trump at the resort to discuss global security challenges. The presidential transition headquarters operated from Mar-a-Lago. World leaders made unofficial visits, seeking to establish relationships with the incoming president. The membership fee had risen to $1 million. Ethics watchdogs raised concerns about what they called selling access. Foreign nationals could become members and gain direct access to the President of the United States. No visitor logs were publicly released. The vetting process for members remained unclear. Trump's defenders argued that Mar-a-Lago was simply where the president lived, and that meeting people there was natural. Critics saw something more troubling, a blurring of lines between private business and public office, where wealth could purchase proximity to power. Trump has also become known for crashing weddings at Mar-a-Lago. Members who book the estate for their weddings often find themselves surprised when Trump makes an appearance. He shakes hands, poses for photos, and tells guests they're going to be very happy. On November 14, 2025, his latest wedding appearance made headlines and went viral on social media. Some brides and grooms consider it the highlight of their special day. Others see it as an intrusion. Either way, it has become part of the Mar-a-Lago experience. Mar-a-Lago stands today much as Marjorie Merriweather Post envisioned it nearly a century ago. The Dorian stone from Genoa still bears the marks of careful carving. The 36,000 Spanish tiles still adorn the walls. The 75-foot tower still offers views across 17 acres stretching from sea to lake. But the estate has become something Post could never have imagined. She dreamed of a winter White House where presidents would host foreign dignitaries in service to the nation. That dream came true, but twisted in ways she could not have predicted. Mar-a-Lago is now a private club where membership costs $1 million. It is a business that generates millions in annual revenue. It is the site of an FBI raid, where classified documents were found in a bathroom. It is the center of legal controversies over property valuation and fraud allegations. It is the headquarters of a political movement. It is where security breaches exposed potential espionage. It remains, above all, a symbol of American power, wealth, and division. The mansion built by a serial heiress has become the epicenter of 21st-century American politics, and its story is far from over.